Hey, we are here at Crown Digital today. We are with Sharice Clark and Julia Tillis. They are the ones that are helping produce this podcast. So this is always a fun time. And Crown Digital, they do so much to help businesses in Newnan. What's up, Newnan? We are back. Well, I'm back, and I have a special guest co-host today because Joy couldn't make it. But I would like to welcome Harold.
Yo, 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 yo! That's what I say. Yo, 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 yo. Harold, that's me, of Newnan Time with Harold. You guys all know who it is. I don't have to explain who I am, but I'm going to anyways.
Absolutely.
Newnan Time with Harold. I'm a parody of the Newnan Times Herald. I've been around since COVID times, 2020. Yeah. Ugh, triggered. You can find me at NewnanTimeWithHarold.com. You can find my podcast anywhere you enjoy podcasts at Newnan Podcast with Harold. We post multiple times every single week. And you can find me on social media at Newnan Time with Harold. I am hilarious and adorable and a handsome devil.
You are.
Yeah.
I will give you that. You are. You also are doing some trivia.
Yes, I also run an entertainment company. I'm an improv director over at Southside Theater Guild in Fairburn. So when I'm not in Newnan, I'm doing that over in Fairburn. But I run an entertainment company called High Spirits Entertainment, like a little ghost, like High Spirits.
That's awesome.
And we do trivia, we do stand-up comedy shows, we do improv shows. I can do bingo if you want me to. But we do all kinds of fun stuff. So yeah, book me, hire me for your venue, and I will make you the happiest you've ever been in your entire life. I promise.
That is where we met.
Yeah.
I met you when you were hosting bingo, and I saw your shirt, and I was like, oh my God, it was like I met a celebrity.
It was the one day I was wearing clothes out in public.
I said, there's Harold. And he came up and looked at me like, who is this crazy lady? I introduced myself, and then he knew who I was.
Then I knew you were, and we hugged, and we kissed, and...
Yeah, no, we didn't do all of that.
We didn't do all of that. We did most of it.
I actually think Nick was there with me. So, yeah,
I don't know who Nick is. Who's Nick?
That's my boyfriend. He would have knocked your lights out.
He's one of those kinds of boyfriends.
He is.
I ain't scared. No, I am scared. I am a coward.
So, and I saw online, too, that you are doing weddings. You're a wedding officiant.
I am a wedding officiant. I've been a wedding officiant for 7 years, and I'm really good at it. So if you need your wedding officiated, hire me. The best way to hire me for that is through a totally different name, which is really confusing. But actually, if you Google Linton Lees, you'll also find Google pages, several Google pages. I've been in the entertainment business industry for a long, long, long time. And I'm the only person in the world with my name.
Yeah.
With my other name, my second name. But my other name, I'm the only person in the world with it. So if you Google me, you'll find pages of just me, and you can hire me to do your wedding, too.
I bet that's a fun wedding.
I am adorable. I just did one on Saturday, and I wrote like 3 pages of intro. It was way too long. I talked too much, and I had everybody crying. It was a good time. Not crying because it was beautiful. They're like, "This is terrible." They're like, "Oh, this is awful. Get out of here."
That is amazing.
I am amazing.
Well,
you are amazing too. I don't want to talk about how great I am.
Well, thank you.
You're great too, that. Which I'm allowed to say.
I would love to get you. So we are in the process. We just hit 40,000 members. Woo-hoo. And I want to get with Line Creek and see about reserving a room and doing a big party down there. We want to invite all of the women and all of the men.
In the world?
No, in Newnan.
In Newnan. That's still a lot.
But have them all come down and just celebrate with us. And I think that it would be a good time, and maybe you could come down and do some of your funny stuff. And
do some of my funny... That's very vague. I could do a lot of things. I don't know if you want me to...
You're going to wear the mustache?
Yeah. What do you mean wear the mustache? Am I going to grow out
your mustache?
Yes, I grow it out every morning when I wake up. First thing I do is I grow a mustache.
So there's a lot of stuff that's been going on. Speaking of entertainment, I know Shrek the Musical is playing at Newnan Theater. Do you know anything about Newnan
I
Theater?
know several of the members there. I worked at Newnan Theater for 20 plus years.
It is an amazing place.
It is really an amazing place. I'm not there anymore, but it is a fantastically amazing place. Super talented people. The people in charge are some of the most wonderful people you'll ever meet in your entire life.
Yeah.
So if you can go out there, even if you don't like the show, just go out there and support them.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a bad show there. Their shows are all great.
I have personally directed bad shows there, but that's just I was their improv director for 5 years.
But you know what? They're so fun. And I've known people that have been in them, and some of them are like fun. Some of them are kind of pull at your heartstrings. I mean, they do just like a little bit of everything. And I really wanted, I saw this when I was looking last night, Shrek the Musical. And I was like, so look up newnantheater.org. You can find the dates. It's going on for the next couple weekends, I believe. And go give them some support, because it is kind of like a little hidden gem here in Newnan.
Beautiful building, beautiful production. They've upgraded so much in the last couple of years. So yeah, if you've never been to Newnan Theater Company, definitely go check them out. Fantastic place.
Definitely.
And my little brother does improv there, and I love my little brother.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'll just put that on.
I think I met your little brother during the riots, like not the riots, what do you call them? Like when the Nazis came to town, he was the one going around and filming everything live.
That was my big brother. Yeah,
was that your big brother?
Yeah.
And I was like, so I was glued to his Facebook page because my husband was a police officer and he was down there on the front dealing with all of that, and it scared me to death. So he kept the community aware of what was going on at the time. So that was great.
I give him credit for Newnan Time with Harold existing.
Yeah.
Because he did that for the Nazis. And then when the Black Lives Matters protests came around COVID times, he was busy. And he was like, hey, do you want to go and live feed for that?
Oh, wow.
So I was like, sure, I'll do that. And while doing that, it was very dramatic. Lots of things happened. It was very intense. And it made me, I'm not as political and serious as my older brother, so I was like, this is really serious and intense. I need to do something silly for the city now. And because of doing the Black Lives Matter protest, that's when I was like, oh, let's do Newnan Time with Harold instead.
That is awesome.
So I transitioned. Right, so thanks to my older brother, thanks to Nazis, that's why Newnan Time with Harold exists.
Yeah, that was a scary time in our town, but you know what? This community pulled together, and thank goodness there was nothing bad that happened, and we hope that that never happens again in this town. What else is going on? I went to the Derby party last weekend. Amazing. It is a fundraiser that benefits Elevate Coweta, which they help the students in Coweta County. Amazing program, but it is like their biggest fundraiser for the year, and everybody got dressed up and wore their hats, and the guys were all dressed up, and it was amazing. So let's see, what else have we got?
Have you been on any good dates lately? Do you go on a lot of dates?
With my girlfriends. My boyfriend's been working. He works himself to death.
On a double date?
Oh yeah, we did. Sharice and I and Nick and her husband went to Lime Creek and went down and had some drinks and the egg roll. It was the egg roll food truck. I don't remember what it is. But yeah, we had a good time. We had a great time. But what else?
I don't know. I'm trying to learn all about your personal life.
Oh.
What do you do at 10 p.m. every single night?
I'm usually responding to people from Chatty, approving posts, declining posts, and then sleeping.
Good schedule.
Yeah.
I appreciate watching, like, whenever I post on Harold about Chatty, and people are like, yeah, they kicked me out of the group. You always, like, comment on them. You're like, hey, well, if you want to come back, just message me.
Absolutely.
We can talk. You're like, let's just communicate as grown-ups. That's all we have to do. I love that.
100%. There is a very small number of people who are on the never again list. But as far as everything else...
You want to list them? You want to go through who they are personally, first and last name?
I'm sure if they're listening to this, they know who they are.
They're angry listening. They're like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's successful.
Yeah, they are on my never again list. So, but, I mean, sometimes things happen and people have a bad day. I've had bad days, and if they come on there and they're getting ugly with somebody, and more than likely they were removed. And because my whole thing is I want everyone to just be kind. You know what? We can have a disagreement. We can not agree on things, but there is no need to name call. There is no need to be ugly. I I mean, I was talking with the Chatty Men guy. He had people that were showing up at his house.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? We're all adults. We can sit and work things out and talk things out and just try to make this a better place. So that's what we're working on.
That's why you got 40,000 members.
It's tough sometimes.
It's tough sometimes.
But there's a lot of things coming up. Race season is starting at Sonoya, and I saw something online. Love going to the races up there. It's always a sight to see. And then I'm also talking, and I need to talk with Sharice about this. One of our ladies, she has TRL Upscale Transportation, and we are in the process of planning a wine tour. I got the prices and everything from her the other day. So they basically drive you up to North Georgia, South Georgia, take you on several different wineries, and then you don't have to worry about how you're getting home.
Right.
You've got transportation, and they stop and they let you take pictures, and it looks just like a lot of fun. So I would like to get I think there's 10 people she can take all together. So just start booking some of those for some of the women. I think it would be a great, just a great time, and, get to know each other and camaraderie and, and drink some wine and.
The most important part of the whole plan.
Absolutely.
Is to drink some wine. Do you think they stop at the Crook's liquor store and that's like one of the wine stops?
I don't know.
Go in there and get yourself some Crook's wine. I haven't been to it since it's become a liquor store.
You haven't? Oh, it's really nice. It's really nice. They have a lot of stuff. I stopped in there one day. But yeah, because my daughter lives up in Sharpsburg, up in that area. Mm-hmm. And so yeah. But yeah, very nice, very nice. And we got Porch Fest coming up.
Porch Fest!
May 31st.
Banjos.
It starts from 12 to 9. Downtown comes alive with free music. And it's a festival that benefits Newnan Coweta History Center. They have music, arts, food, crafts. You can actually get in touch with the History Center, and they have like a VIP tour that includes a bunch of things. And I think they take you into some of the gardens in the historic district, which is amazing. If you have not seen some of them, check that out. We were talking about podcasts, and Harold, we know you have your podcast.
And it's excellent.
We are doing our podcast. Podcast is like becoming a thing. And I was in downtown one day, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and they were telling me about this podcast called In the Red Clay. It is hosted by Sean Kipe, and he interviews Stony Burt. Stoney's dad was Billy Burt, which was one of the most dangerous men in Georgia. He was known for starting the Dixie Mafia here in Georgia. A lot of murders. It started off like, just common things, that he grew up poor and he started running moonshine and running liquor, and then it just turned into this big thing. A whole lot of story, whole lot of history. But Stoney has written 2 books and told his father's story. And it is the best podcast I have ever listened to. I highly recommend it. If you want to look at it, look up In the Red Clay. Sandy and I drove up to Brazelton, and he has now taken his liquor and going to the liquor stores. You're talking about Crook's Market. He goes to these liquor stores to get them to sell his alcohol. He was in Newnan, I think in the beginning of March. He brings his dad's old car and sells, his books, and he's got T-shirts, and people literally have come from all over the country to see him. That's how amazing this podcast is. So if we could get as good as Sean, man, we'd be killing it. We could go on tour.
High bar.
So yeah, highly recommend. Look it up. In the Red Clay. Amazing, amazing podcast. And we're talking history. So I would like to introduce our guest, Sally Toole.
Hey, how are you?
Sally, she has started the location.
Georgia Location Scout.
Yes.
It's a location store for filming TV, but we love history too.
So that's how I came across you. Mm-hmm. I saw you're doing a Murder in Coweta County
Right,
tour.
We were really encouraged to do that. Love the story of Murder in Coweta County. To me, it's one of the most iconic tales. Mahaley Lancaster and I are kindred spirits, I believe. I could tell you some stories about that, but it's just one of these stories that I think will continue on. It's just a fascinating story, and it changed the history of law and the judicial system here in Georgia forever. Because prior to this particular case, African Americans in the state of Georgia were not only not allowed in court, they were not allowed to testify in court.
Exactly.
And this trial changed that. And so it really changed the course of Georgia history.
Yeah, because those two men,
Albert Brooks and Robert Lee Gates.
yes, they were the first black men to testify against
Correct.
a white man.
Sent him to the electric chair.
Sent him to death. Yes.
Sent him to the electric chair.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that inspired us about that story was we were living near Warm Springs at the time, and I happened to drive through Greenville, and I knew about the old jail. And it's still there, and there's an eccentric woman who lives there. It's her private home. Interesting. And she used to have a haunted house and everything. Well, she was having a yard sale. Well, when I see someone with a yard sale in a cool house, I stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I start, giving them the shmee, hi, how are you? And I schmoozed my way right into the jail.
Oh, amazing.
And I said, is there any way you could tour me through the jail? And we took pictures and video, and we walked through the old jail, and I just goosebumps.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was the last place that Wilson Turner spent the last 2 nights of his life before, John Wallace murdered him. Over the line into Coweta County.
Right.
And then we just got into the story. Now, of course, I remember the old movie from the 90s, and still today, if I tell people, well, the bad guy was Andy Griffith, they're like, what?
Right?
What? There's no way. And of course, Johnny Cash, everybody loves Johnny Cash, iconic, human. And so the story was just so fascinating. And then as we moved back to Georgia from Florida, we had relatives. My daughter married into a family that is very connected to Meriwether County. And so that just sort of sparked more interest, and we just love the story. We really love the story.
It's an amazing story. I mean, and you take them to all of the locations.
Yes. Now, and that all started through the YouTube channel. So we just started YouTubing basically because we enjoyed YouTube, and it was a way to watch TV without having to pay. Sorry, cable companies, without having to pay this outrageous amount, because cable for us was getting close to $200 a month. It's like, no, I'm not doing this. And then we started finding really cool things on YouTube. And my husband one day said, we could do this, and which turned into me doing it, because that's how things work. Oh, we could build this, and it ends up me doing it. And that's how it started, and that was one of the stories that we wanted to share. And we went to Mahaley's grave. We went to John Wallace's grave. We went to the jail. We've been to the courthouses. We've been to the creek where they found what was left of Wilson Turner's body. I've been there.
Wow.
So and everywhere you go, like I said, it's just a goosebump moment, and it's a way to share history in an entertaining way. And this was always my goal on YouTube. And my other thing that I can tell you is I can guarantee anyone listening, you put on my YouTube channel, you do not have to worry about holding that remote thinking you might need to pause it at any moment. There's no cursing, there's no inappropriate. Now, if I did, I'd probably have 1 million viewers and, be living the life of luxury here. But I refuse to do that. And anything I've written and anything I've ever done, I just refuse to. It's always family friendly. But you teach history in an entertaining way.
Absolutely.
And before they know it, they're like, wait, a timeline? Okay, the 50s. And then when you shock people by telling them that schools were not desegregated in Coweta County till the 1970s,
Yes.
it's shocking.
It is very shocking.
It's shocking. And so then you get into all the history and so forth. Now, I'm a Yankee. You can tell I don't have that Southern. But I got here as quick as I could. I'll tell you that. So, but the history in Georgia fascinates us. We love that murder in Coweta County story. It was actually my son who told me, why don't you expand and offer this as part of your tour? And man, the feedback we got in just posting, hey, we could do this and this and this. It would be a full day tour for somebody. And I'm going to connect with your bus people. We've already been talking about getting a little connection and, renting a bus and having a party and learning the history. because the story is absolutely fascinating. And when you throw in Mahaley, it's another level.
I love
because her is a soothsayer, and I do another little thing I do on the side is I go to and if anybody's listening, from one of my retirement homes, my memory care facilities, once a month I go to about 6 facilities here in Coweta County, and I tell stories.
Amazing.
And the people are engaged, and I always, when I talk about murder in Coweta County, there's one little person. My grandmother went to see Mahaley. They found the wedding ring. They found the wallet,
Yeah.
And so there are still, and I'm still getting stories to add to the Mahaley bucket of stories that I have.
I don't know if you have the Newnan Coweta magazine where they did.
Yes.
Yes. So Melissa Jackson did that article and interviewed a bunch of, matter of fact, she interviewed my friend Georgia because her grandmother had gone to see Mahaley. The stories that you hear about her are fascinating.
Absolutely.
And
I heard one just recently that, and this was a true story, was that there was a group of kids, and they went there, they would call it on a lark, and they went to see Mahaley, and one of the boys in the car said, "She's a fake," just dissing her, trash talking her in the car. And when they arrived, she stopped that kid at the door, that one specific young man, said, "You're not coming in my house." Ooh, boom, and so she knew, and this is the crux of the murder in Coweta County story, because she knew the whole story. She knew it.
Yeah.
She knew before he even killed Wilson Turner what he was going to do. She warned him not to do it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, John Wallace was not fearful of many people in his life. He was afraid of Mahaley.
Oh, yeah.
He was afraid of Mahaley because she just knew. I think the line she said was, "Crawfish got eyes in their tails, and I got eyes in my head. I see things." And so that's who she was. And the stories are undeniable.
Yeah. The book, Oracle of the Ages.
Yes.
I have read that several times.
And then the other one is The Murder in Coweta County. But Oracle of the Ages is interesting because there's a chapter on a woman, Clara Bryan. Clara Bryan is the great-great-grandmother of my grandchildren.
Oh,
They're
wow.
Bryans.
Wow.
And there's a whole chapter. She was the neighbor, and her husband was the preacher. Well, in those days, if you were the preacher's wife, there were duties. And one of the duties was if a neighbor or someone in the neighborhood was getting sick, it was their sworn duty to visit with the family. She was literally with Mahaley when Mahaley took her last breath.
Oh, wow.
And she sat with Mahaley's body, which was another old-timey tradition. You would sit with the body. And it was so to give the family a break, because the bodies, we didn't go off to funeral homes in those days. Funeral directors came to you, or the family handled everything.
Yes.
And so she sat with the body, and she is the biological great, or how many greats, I don't know, of my grandchildren.
That is amazing.
So there was a big connection, and it's just a fascinating story.
I know when I moved here, and my neighbor actually bought me the book, and then I found out that there was a movie, and this has been like 20 years ago. And I mean, there's several books, and I was telling you that Joy and I went down to the courthouse and sat and listened it was his great-grandfather. I think it was just his great-grandfather, who was one of the officers who helped put away John Wallace. They don't really talk about him much, I guess, in the movie. And
there's a lot of stuff in the movie, because movies are movies.
Right.
They didn't have the eye patch on Mahaley, and she did lose an eye. But June Carter Cash doesn't wear that.
Right.
So there are different things. But as far as a movie telling the story, it comes pretty close. What I feel like it comes close enough to get you interested to start Googling. Use that other brain, your phone, your computer. I always say, let me use my other brain and do a Google search. And when we tell people the story, people are still amazed at how it all played out. I mean, there was a murder, there was a cover-up, there was the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Moonshine, 70% of the corn that John Wallace grew didn't go to the dairy farm.
Yeah.
It was moonshine.
Yeah.
And that was the crux. Whenever you throw moonshine in the mix in this area of Georgia, again, gets a lot of interest.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So if you're doing this tour with you, let's say it's somebody who doesn't know all this information, is it still a really good opportunity to learn?
Oh,
Like,
it'd
does
be
it
so
walk you
fun.
through from the
Yes,
beginning?
that's the whole point. We start out at Mahaley's grave, and that's where we just describe her and all of the whimsical things about her life that we know. And then we get to the crux of moonshiners and bootleggers in Georgia. We tell the history of all that, and people start, okay. And we literally tell the story as we go.
Okay.
So we start with Mahaley. We give you the foundation for the story. Then we'll head over to Pine Mountain, and we'll talk about Pine Mountain and the Strickland Farm and Wallace Road and all of that. And we just go from place to place to place as the story pans out.
So by the end, you have the full story.
We even go to
That's
the
excellent.
murder. We go to the scene of the crime.
Yes.
We literally go to the scene of the crime, which has not changed tremendously.
Yeah.
And some of the reason I love the YouTube videoing is I guess in my head I keep thinking document, because some of this stuff will be gone.
Yeah.
And if I don't get it on video, you'll never see it again, because we all live in this area and we see the construction and we see everything changing. And before you know it, they're going to plow through, some of these locations. But we even go to the murder scene. We stop by the jail. The whole thing. We basically take the story step by step as you travel.
Excellent. Yeah.
And even if you're not knowledgeable of the story ahead of time, perhaps, you will learn the story, but if you're a history buff, it's awesome.
How can people find you?
Sure. So I have a tour company called Georgia Location Scout. That's a .com. That's one easy way to find me. And then, of course, we have a Facebook page that's listed as Location Scout, or just me, Sally Toole. You can Google me because I have a very lengthy history of writing history and performing and producing ghost tours.
And she does a little bit of everything. She does the Walking Dead tours.
Yes.
The Bondsman.
Well,
They're working on that now.
Yeah, the Bondsman overlaps a lot with The Walking Dead.
Yes.
So the Walking Dead fans are super keen on the Bondsman because they're like, wait a minute, didn't I see that on The Walking Dead? Yes, you did.
Yes.
Wait, that's Grantville. He literally, in the movie, in the TV show, Kevin Bacon drives past the famous Away With You wall in Grantville.
Yes.
And a lot of the fans are like, that's the wall.
Yeah.
That's the Away With You wall. So they love that. And not all the locations overlap, but several do. And we go to Sonoy, but we also do history. And we are sort of connected with the Page House in Turin, which is a 200-year-old settler's home. And she is desperate to keep the house because it's 200 years old.
Right.
So it takes a lot to keep it up. And we did a Phantoms or Phantasm little October thing where we tell the history of the house, and then we feed in with The Walking Dead because The Walking Dead filmed in her house.
That is amazing. I'm so glad that I came across you.
And I am too. I really appreciate you having us on because we're just started last year, this company, but I've been in the tourism industry. I'm still a licensed tour guide in St. Augustine, Florida, and still considered employed at the longest standing tour company in the state of Florida.
That's amazing.
Shout out to Tour St. Augustine. If you're ever down there, take a tour with them. Worked at Ripley's, did my own tours in Norcross, and researched this area of Coweta and Meriwether County, and we do one tour where I take you to that settler's home, plus one in Luthersville called the Trammell House. And they're both settlers' homes, well over 200 years old. We take you to the home, we introduce you to the people who lived in the house, and then we jump in the car and I take you to their grave sites.
That's amazing. Can I be your shadow?
Sure.
So you're someone who's worked in the touring business for a long, long time.
At least about 20 years now.
What do you think it is about you that makes you different than others?
I will tell you that I find myself very entertaining.
I agree with that so far.
I'll just say that. So I think the difference is, one, I do keep things clean. And I think that
Right.
I stand apart with that. I also want to keep the history true. And so I think people respect that. But I do also have, I'll admit I have a pretty deep sense of humor. And so I like to bring that. And I like to interact with people. Tour guiding is a one-on-one, it's like a one-man show. Mm-hmm. And you've got up to 25 people surrounding you, and you've got to make eye contact. And you learn these tricks over the years. And you want to write a story that has a beginning, a middle, and then boom at the end. And if you can do that, you draw the audience in, and people are just fascinated with the story, and then you get, a little kicker at the end. And I just, you were talking about the Coweta Times, the magazine. A few years back, they took a ghost tour that I was leading in Sonoy, and they did a write-up on me, and they wrote about the tour, and then they added in a story of me connecting with one of the reporter's sons, who was like very shy and withdrawn, and I started talking about a story. He goes, I heard about that in school, and bam, I went after him with it.
Yeah.
You got him to open up.
I got him to, and she was talking about how it was very, very, it was a lovely article, and I was just thrilled and honored the way that she described my tour guiding. And we love to entertain people, but we also want to teach you a history lesson. One, Mark Twain always said, never let the truth get between you and a good story. So we do like to embellish, but not too far off the history, but enough to add the ghosts in. But we also think that it's important for people to remember parts of history, or you're doomed to repeat them. And so a lot of people think history is boring, but then you're out with them and you're telling them history, like, wow, this is pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what we enjoy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who say history is boring, they just haven't heard the history that they're interested in, because there's so much history.
There's so much, and my grandson is really into like the mythology stuff. That's not my time period. My time period that I enjoy is 1800s to around 1950s. That's what I love. I love the industrial age. Of course, in St. Augustine, we talk about Henry Flagler, big-time industrialists, and all of those wealthy. Then you've got the poor folks in the factory, and this whole Downton Abbey kind of, the rich and the poor, the separation of the rich and the poor. And it fascinates me. We were talking about our kids going to elementary schools here, and I was talking to my grandson the other day about, it's a privilege for you to go to public school. 100 years ago, you'd have been in a factory losing your fingers at the mill.
Yeah.
So they don't realize that, just this short period of time, it's a drop in the bucket of the world. But things have really progressed. And there, when we talk about Mahaley was a big proponent of public school education for everyone.
Yes.
African American and whites. She did not believe they should be separated. And so she was well ahead of her time.
Oh, yes,
which makes her an especially fascinating character.
And I will tell all of the listeners that if you do go to Mahaley's grave, make sure you take $1 and a dime.
$1 and a dime. $1 for her and a dime for the dogs.
$1 for her and a dime for the dogs. My dad came down here and we took him up there, and I said, you've got to leave $1 and a dime.
Yeah, you don't want to walk away without it. No.
You will have bad luck. And he says, I don't believe in that. I'm not leaving $1 out here in the middle of the cemetery. He went home. He was down in his garage, and he was up on this little step stool, and he fell and he broke his wrist.
Well,
and I said, I told you, Dad, you should have left $1 and a dime. Mahaley is trying to warn you.
Now, I will say something you said just a minute ago about the cemetery. Do you know the difference between a graveyard and a cemetery?
Yeah, it's attached to a church.
A graveyard is with a church, and a cemetery stands alone.
Yes.
So when you take our ghost tours, that's one thing after all of these years of doing this. When we're walking in between the actual stories, I can tell you about coins on tombstones. I can tell you why they're facing east. There's little things, little trivia. And, right here in Newnan, we have a grave of just an arm.
Yes.
And I find that fascinating. There's just a stone with a picture of an arm, and the guy lived for 30 more years, and then he's buried like next to his arm.
Yeah.
So you just never know. And we go to graveyards and cemeteries, and a lot of times I don't get any research ahead. I just get the stones and the pictures. And then when I get in the editing phase, then I start to do the research. And we have found, Revolutionary War heroes. There's some right around the corner behind the Lego store. Is a Revolutionary cemetery.
Oh, wow.
That just in the middle of nowhere. And it's fascinating to me. And now people don't also know, common fact, that outside of your regular city cemeteries where you could afford the $4 to be buried there or whatever it was, there were always paupers' graves. And they're building houses now near these cemeteries. And there are, I don't know if you've seen Poltergeist or not, but just saying. So you have to be cautious. I just went yesterday looking here in Newnan. We have the largest unmarked slave grave.
Yes, we do.
And there was nobody home yesterday, so I've left numerous messages, but I'm trying to get into the little museum. But they came out.
Reach out to the historical.
Yeah, they
society.
came out to they came out to bulldoze over to build the park, and the neighbors came out and said, "Wait a minute, my grandma says, our great grandparents are buried here." And if you see the sunken graves, that's because that was before vaults.
Yes.
And they all would sink in. We didn't even embalm people. The Egyptians did. But in the United States, we didn't embalm people till the Civil War. And that was to preserve the bodies to try to ship them home.
Yeah.
And you didn't have funeral homes till the 1900s.
So amazing.
All of this is interesting history. I have a friend who's an anthropologist who we sat down one time and we were telling me all the things that people have buried their deceased and honored their deceased in so many different ways. I mean, it's fascinating.
Well, we don't want to give up all of your stories and all of your secrets.
No.
We want to hear that on the tours. Definitely, I want to get with you and Tamika. She and I were talking about the wine tour, but I'd also like to get one of the tours.
That would be so fun.
That would be amazing.
It would be so fun. And I'm just thinking about superstitions. My left hand is itching. Do you know what that means?
You're coming into money.
Coming into money, so.
How do you guys know these things?
My mother was, she was really funny about these. You never leave a hat on the bed.
Okay, why?
It's just bad luck. It goes back to the pirates.
Okay.
And if you don't want to have children, leave a broom in the bedroom.
Why?
I don't know. And if a pale horse is standing in a field, the fish are biting. I don't know. There's all kinds.
So, okay, I made a note earlier.
Okay.
Why is it $1 and a dime? Does that mean something, or is that an old wives'
so
tale?
Mahaley would offer readings for 20 minutes in her little ramshackle shack. And she lived way below her means. She was a very wealthy woman. And you would come to her, and for $1 and a dime, you would get your 20-minute reading. And she would tell people the dollars for me and the dimes for the dog. I've had old people say she should have spent the dollar on the dogs. Because the dogs were all bony and ribsy,
My neighbor said as a kid, he can remember seeing her dogs, and that he said they looked like little monkeys out there.
And now the dogs would follow her to church and sit under the pews with her at Caney Head Methodist Church where she's buried. But they said nothing because she, like John Wallace, was very philanthropic. She would buy the choir new robes. She would buy new hymnals. She would donate things to the church.
Yeah.
That was somewhere she spent her money. Now, there were other times where she was very frugal or stingy with her money.
And after she passed, they found a lot of money buried.
Much more than
on her property.
Yes.
Like
in mason jars, in chicken coops,
flower
stuffed
pots.
in the walls.
Yeah.
Because back in those days, you didn't really insulate. And so they would just she would stuff money in the walls.
Yeah, there was money everywhere.
Money everywhere.
Those dollar and dimes added up, but
dime.
she had people from all over the South that would come and see her.
Oh, all over the country.
Yeah.
And the neighbors would say they would come just to look at the license tags.
Yeah.
Indiana, Arkansas. And one of the reasons was there was one very popular story that was broadcast syndicated through all newspapers, and that was the story of the young woman. You know that story, where there was a group of kids that came to see her, and one little girl, she refused to tell this young woman her fortune. And one of the boys knew Mahaley from church, and he stopped her on the way out and he said, "Why won't you tell her future?" She said, "She has no future. She has no fortune." And that night the group was in a horrific car accident. She was the only one killed.
Yeah.
And there's the goosebumps again. And the ghost stuff will kick in. We're halfway to Halloween now, but we'll kick into some more ghost stuff. We'll do some things that way in the future. I'm sure I'll come up with some sort of a ghosty thing in October to add to the tours. But,
Absolutely.
I mean, we have ghosts, and now I'm into zombies, and then from ghosts to zombies, we do it all.
You offer it all.
We offer it all.
So definitely, we want to. We'll talk and.
Oh yeah.
Be listening and stay in tune because we are going to try to plan a tour.
Love it. And the benefit of a tour, I know people are probably thinking, I know where they filmed this, I know where they filmed that, but the benefit of the tour is one thing. So I pick you up and you don't have to think about it.
Yes.
You don't have to GPS it. You don't have to worry about the route. I've got pictures that I show people. So if you're like, I don't remember that scene, well, I have a picture to spark your memory. And so you can just have family come in and, let's get in touch with Sally and we'll take a tour and I take the wheel, and you just sit back.
Amazing.
And we just go to all the cool places.
So you've always been Southern based with your tours?
Yes, since I started touring was in the South.
So let's say that you had the whole world at your finger. Like, no, money's not a problem. You can go anywhere, and you can be in charge of the tour of any crime, any TV show. What is like your dream tour to be able to run?
Actually, what I'm doing now would be considered my
one
dream
of your
tour.
dream
I really can honestly say that. Now, St. Augustine, I would always go back and tour. I've been asked to come back before, and I've done book signings and stuff for them. The place I'd be interested in visiting would be Salem, Massachusetts would be one. And I also am very interested in Irish things. So something in Ireland would be cool. That's a tricky one. There's so many places. My brother is an architect and has some fascinating stories about Hawaii and all of the trinkets and the burial grounds and the holy ground and stuff there. So I would love to go, learn more about that culture. But we travel, and my husband and I do travel, and we love to find little roadside stuff.
Those are my sisters. I'm going to see them this year.
Yeah, Plains, Georgia. We just went to Plains right when Jimmy Carter was about to. Right in September, I said, "Well, I want to get some footage. He's either going to turn 100 or he's not.
Yeah.
One way or another, he's about to be in the news. You know what I mean?" So I wanted to get footage there, and they took us to the old hotel, and we go upstairs, and we find out we're the only people in this 7-room hotel for the night. The only people, and every room is a different decade that was important in Jimmy and Rosalind's life. We chose the 1960s room because we were both born in 1960. Well, we go past, and there's this big elevator, and I happen to say, "What's that?" It's got a sign. She goes, "Oh, this used to be a funeral home, and that's where they brought the bodies up and down." And I was like, "Oh, okay, we'll stay here." This is our room for sure.
There is so much history out there, and so many places to see and dig into. And you talked about that. Nick and I went to Gettysburg last year.
Yes.
And stayed in one of the old bed and breakfasts that still had the bullet holes from
Well,
the
a lot
Civil
of
War.
people, when they take my different tours, will mention to me Gettysburg.
Well, we were the only ones in that bed and breakfast that night.
Crazy, isn't that crazy?
And it was scary.
It was
It was
chilling.
scary.
It was chilling.
It wasn't romantic. It was scary.
It was kind of scary.
It was chilling. I have to tell you, it was very interesting to be in there with. And one was the 1950s room, the 1920s room. So
Well,
really neat stuff.
We're going to have to wrap this up because we don't want to, I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for?
I have no idea what you're looking for. I had like 15 more questions. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just kidding.
We'll ask one more. How about one more?
Okay, so we know what you're like professionally. We know what your dreams are. How do you describe yourself personally? What do you do day to day? What do you do for fun that's not, and you can't say, I like to study about ghosts. No.
Like
Can't
to
give that
study about
answer.
that.
You got
Well,
it.
I have to tell you, I'm a fan of watching TV. I fully admit. I will sit down and watch a show, and I will binge. I like to watch my TV. I admit to that. But we do like to travel. I've got 8 grandkids, so that takes up a lot of time.
Which one's your favorite? No, don't answer
no.
that.
He knows who he is.
Oh, it's a he. It's a he. If you're listening.
He knows who he is. I'm kidding. I love you all.
They're going to listen to this
I
in the
know
future
gonna
when they're
listen.
adults.
And some
And
of
they're
them have
going to
been
be like,
on the YouTube stuff, and it's so funny because they'll take, "Can I have the camera?" And they're walking around, boop, 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 boop. And then I put on their baby cam because they're like all over the place. But we just enjoy the traveling. We enjoy chilling at home. I'm super into gardening this year because my New Year's resolution was to provide more food. So we're growing
Amazing.
all kinds of stuff, potatoes and everything, and that's what we're doing. I do like to write, and I like to get on a topic, and yeah, I do like the research. I have to admit, I guess it's kind of crazy, but I just love to follow up on. I get a guy who'll message, "I'm 82 years old. Can you call me?" And okay, and then he'll tell me these stories, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, Joey and I
stuff.
were talking. We need to get you with Mr. Jimmy, and he has all of the history as far
That's
as
cool.
Newnan.
I know Mr. Blake Adcock, he'll probably be listening. He's a big Newnan guy, and he's reached out and told me some stuff. And
Yeah.
But we really spent this last winter learning more about Newnan because we lived in Norcross. We lived in Florida for a while. We moved back and lived near Warm Springs, and then we moved to Newnan. We're living with my son because he's got 4 kids, and it's just a craziness there. So we're there to help him out. But we kind of spent the winter learning there's so much right here.
There's a lot of history.
I mean, I went to the cemetery, 60 acres of cemetery. That's amazing.
Oh yes,
That'll definitely be a side trip.
Yes.
If we do the murder at Coe, like, wait a minute, we have to go over here.
We have to see the arm.
We got to go see this guy's arm. So.
You mentioned that you write, and I know you have some books out. Do you want to mention those briefly before we wrap up?
I had a Christian devotional called A Home for All Seasons. It's still available online. That one was self-published, but a lot of people say it was the best book I ever wrote, so who knows. And then there are 2 history books on Norcross, because we lived there and we loved the history there. Train Town, Moonshine, all that. And then I did a sort of a companion book to the Norcross Ghost Tours, which was called Souls of Norcross, a Railroad Town with an Afterlife. And we love that book. That's a really good book, still available. And then we realized, wait a minute, we could just talk about the South more. And that's where we have Stirring Spirits. And we just self-published that one. Publishing a book is cool. And it's cool to have a publisher, but you get like a nickel per book. And so, you can kind of do a different route sometimes, but fun stuff.
I want to pick your brain on that too.
My brain? You want to write a book with me?
Are
we going to write a book?
I think we should.
The Newnan Chatty Time with Harold?
Yes.
There you go. There you go.
We've got
I can format it for you.
There you go.
I just
amazing.
Do it myself. It's cheaper.
That is amazing. Well, I think this has been great. It's been fun. It's been real fun.
It's been lovely.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Cannot wait. I'd like to get with you again, too, around October. And
we're going to do something.
Yeah.
Well, if we want to do something for October, we need to start talking soon.
What costume are you guys going to wear for Halloween?
I don't know.
witch.
I'm thinking about...
That was quick.
Well, so Mahaley Lancaster would be 150 years old this year in October. I believe it's October 18th. And I'm thinking about putting together a Mahaley costume and pitching it to some of the schools and stuff. I'm affiliated with Meriwether County. I did all the testing and stuff, and I'm a volunteer with an ID because you have to have that,
Yes.
background check and everything. And then, of course, Coweta County. Now, in the movie, they called it Cayeta. There's a little controversy about that.
Yes, Cayeta.
Sonoya, Cayeta, Coweta.
Sharpsburg, Shaparsburg. Couldn't think of one.
Sharpiesburg.
Sharpsburg, there you go.
Well, it's been fun. I can't wait to see where we go from here. I can't wait to see all of us get on these tours. And Harold, we want you there too. You and your girlfriend, you've got to come.
Harold, you and I could, Punch and Judy.
We could punch
tour.
Judy?
He doesn't know who Punch and Judy
That's
is.
my mom's name. It's just let's go beat up your mom. What?
Like interaction, dude, a little back and forth. I could do that.
I will do literally anything I'm asked.
There you go.
So you just tell me, you say,
and what's your costume going to be?
come get on a bus. I'm going to be a chipmunk wearing a squirrel costume. So it's going to be layered. So if you take off my squirrel costume, I'll then be a chipmunk. And if you take off the chipmunk costume, I'll be me.
You're not just going to go as Harold?
No, actually, I'm going to be a beaver wearing a squirrel costume.
Get him a big purple crayon. How about that?
I usually go as Santa Claus, and I'm just I'm early. That's what we should do.
That's amazing. All right, well, stay tuned. We cannot wait to see where this goes. I hope you all enjoyed. And thank you, Harold.
Thank you for asking me last night.
It was amazing. There's always... It's always so much fun and cutting up and joking and laughing because you know what? Life's too short not to do that. So stay tuned for what we've got coming up. Maybe we'll see you on one of our tours or at our party.
Love you.